बिल्लाहि मिनश्शैतानिर्रजीम बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम. Dear friends, welcome to Idea Foundation Forum. Today we will discuss the research topic Qur'anic Principles to harness people's power for positive change. As a part of the main topic, people's power can reverse the Muslims' decadence. While studying the Qur'an, we find that working of various elements of the universe and laws of nature regulating their internal relationships and operations have been revealed quite in detail, in much detail. Likewise, the instructions regarding the man's obligations to his creator and to his fellow beings have also been revealed quite explicitly, in quite detail. Highest echelon in the man's life, the universe, and the lowest echelon of his life, the self, both have the growing nature. The universe is growing in material terms, while self is growing in intellectual terms. Despite their growing nature, both are governed by the fixed laws of nature. Fixed laws of nature. However, knowledge of the man regarding the universe and his own self keeps on increasing with the growth of human intellect. There is a huge space in between the self and the elements of universe that has been made playing field of the man, which expands depending on his expanding intellect. Thus, very few laws have been revealed by the Qur'an in this area, and much have been left to his intellect. These laws are mostly guiding in nature, leaving much room for interpretation, adaptation, and growth in view of changing needs and growing human intellect. This playing field includes the man's interaction with the universe to extract maximum benefits from its elements. His societal affairs related to our society, then establishment of a state and its institutions, etc. For evolving laws in this area, the man is desired to seek guidance from the Qur'an, the laws of nature, divine attributes, knowledge of the universe and the self, historic experiences, and his own intellect. Now please recall here. Just recall. The man was accorded with great trust of vicegerency at the time of his creation. To perform his role of vicegerent, he was blessed with free will. Free will. Derivative knowledge or intellect, which was distinctive of fixed knowledge of the angels. Means angels had fixed knowledge, whereas man was given derivative knowledge, as explained in ayat 31 to 33 of Surah Baqarah, mentioned on the screen. And huge powers over the universe, mandating him to evolve a society where submission to the will of Allah and well-being of the humanity could be ensured. Since the man's status for permanent life of the hereafter is to be determined on the performance of this worldly role, he is given freedom of choice in managing his affairs in this area by evolving a set of laws befitting to the emerging needs. Thus, the Qur'an instead of giving much detailed fixed laws in socio-political and economic domain, has given a detailed framework of laws that grooms and trains human behavior and conduct, evolving a dynamic, just, and benevolent personality. Such personalities working together, working jointly, can evolve a legal and administrative framework to establish a promising state, especially in democratic environment, to best serve Allah's will and well-being of humanity. Let us discuss this charismatic prescription of the Qur'an in some detail. Dear friends, charismatic prescription for building a dynamic, just, and benevolent personality lies in pursuance of Qur'anic philosophy of life, which has been summarized in lecture 3 as the purpose of the man's creation in the words: to establish a just, peaceful, and materially as well as intellectually growing society, ensuring complete submission to the will of Allah and well-being of humanity. The purpose of man's creation was explained in 4 dimensions. Which are those 4 dimensions? 1. To ensure complete submission to Allah's will, to accept the sovereignty of Allah. Number 2. To remain engaged for the growth of material and intellectual resources in line with the laws of nature. Number 3. To endeavor for well-being of the humanity. And number 4. To establish peace and order in the society, pursuing the Qur'anic tenets of justice and common good for prosperity and freedom of individuals and community as well. Some Quranic references have been displayed on the screen in this respect. May please be noted. Other important components of the Quranic philosophy of life are the criterion of balance, good social conduct, settlement of collective affairs by mutual consultation and justice, intellectual pursuits, and persistent struggle for the good and against the evil. Each of them play catalytic role, important role in character building, having significant impact on the society. Thus, these 6 elements of Quranic philosophy of life provide basis of the principles to promote a man's personality adequately competent to build a faithful, just, dynamic, and progressive society. So, dear friends, as foundational dimension of the purpose of the man's creation, submission to Allah's will should be the primemost consideration of human activity in the man's entire life. It is the moral and spiritual impetus for good social conduct of the man. It is the driving force behind pursuance of Allah's attributes, His nature, and the role of vicegerent. It gives assurance of a happy life in the hereafter as well. The Qur'an gives the idea of a growing universe. Thus, the man, as the vicegerent of Allah, needs to be productive, innovative, creative, and progressive, focusing on well-being of the humanity. Institutional development, intellectual growth, and material well-being are all encouraged in Islam. Mind it, I repeat, institutional development, to grow institutionally, intellectual growth, to get scientific knowledge, to get cognitive knowledge, and material well-being are all encouraged in Islam. However, they should not contradict with other dimensions, the will of Allah, social order, common good, and well being of the fellow beings. Excellence of faith, 6 articles of faith. Excellence of faith and a rewarding life in the hereafter is linked to the man's endeavor for well-being of the community here in this world. And likewise, Quranic instructions are very clear, obvious, and directive on the need of equity, order, justice, and common good for establishing a prosperous, cohesive, and peaceful society. Note the references displayed on the screen. So, dear friends, the criterion of balance, second element of the Quranic philosophy of life, is relevant to every walk of life, social, political, economic. It attunes, very important, it attunes the personality with melody of the nature, rhythm of the nature. It inculcates great resilience, persistence, resolution, humility, and wisdom in the personality to fight out the excesses of the self and society. The man and society both find order, equilibrium, peace, and progress by pursuing the criterion of balance. It desires a balance between the worldly engagements and ibadat, a life here and a life hereafter. A comprehensive explanation of the Quranic concept of balance is given in Ayat 77 of Surah Al-Qasas. I share with you its translation. Listen and think on every word of this ayat. But seek through that which Allah has given you the home of the hereafter, and yet do not forget your share of the world, and do good as Allah has done good to you, and desire not corruption in the land. Indeed, Allah does not like corrupters. The ayat 77 has laid down golden principles for urging progress, social peace, and livelier life in this world and best reward in the hereafter. 5 points need special focus with reference to this ayat. 1. Earning of worldly wealth is not prohibited, but it should be earned through just means. Its spending on one's own self and on others should reflect decency and benevolence. Number 2, the core objective of all the human efforts should be focused to seek Allah's blessing for some good reward in the hereafter. For that, the man must understand that this earthly life is a short span of test and trial, where he is merely a trustee of his worldly possessions for a fixed time, and he will be accountable on the inevitable day of judgment for the means by which he acquired them, these worldly possessions. He acquired them and the ways he spent them, which will determine his status for the permanent life of the hereafter. Number 3, the man is advised to spend a livelier life and not a life of seclusion by negating the amusements of life which have not been prohibited by the Qur'an or Sunnah. It's very important. 4. A golden criterion for goodness has been set by desiring from the man to do good with your fellow being as Allah has done good to him, to man. Thus the man has been made responsible to establish peace, social equilibrium and progress in the world. Number 5, a balance is desired between the worldly activities and ibadat. There are several Quranic verses that strengthen this concept of balance. A few of them are shown on the screen. Please study them at your leisure time. So dear friends, in economic sphere too, besides the socio-political and cultural issues, in economic sphere too, the Quran presents a balancing framework for individual and collective interests. Under capitalism, individual interest rules the economic system, which allows concentration of wealth in a few hands, leaving a vast majority deprived of economic dividend. Communism, on the other extreme, abolishes the individual interest through coercive means, which deprives the economic players of their incentives, worsening the economic profile of the country. Whereas the Quran's balancing approach promotes economic equilibrium without losing productive efficiency of the private business by reducing concentration of wealth through its institutions of zakat, charity, and strong measures against interest and profiteering. In fact, Quranic view of interdependence of individual and collective interests is in conformity with the laws of nature prevalent in the working of the universe. Think on this point. A little injustice with an individual or a group of individuals may lead to social chaos and threaten the very fabric of a society. For that, the Quran is very, very categorical, clear on the value of justice, equity, and balance at individual and collective levels, both for the peaceful existence and progress of a society. So, dear friends, Quranic philosophy of life requires from a Muslim to be just, benevolent, and moderate in his social conduct to become a model of peace, trust, and love for his fellow being. Ayat 63 of Surah Al-Furqan beautifully describes it in the words, listen. And the servants of the most merciful, Allah, are those who walk upon the earth easily. What is easily? Peacefully, smoothly, without disturbing their fellow being. And the servants of the most merciful are those who walk upon the earth easily, and when the ignorant addresses them harshly, arrogantly, they say words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. Look at the advice of Quran. The man is required to be moderate in his lifestyle. Unity among the Muslims in socio-religious matters both is an essential obligation, not a choice as declared by the Quran. Ayat have been referred on the screen. The Muslims have been directed to ward off evil with good and forgiveness, to mitigate, to eliminate future enmity and chaotic situation, and let opportunity of peace and friendship prosper. Allahu Akbar. However, they have been directed, Muslims have been directed to stand steadfast against tyranny and injustice. Injustice has been considered root cause of socio-economic evils. Thus, the Qur'an has given very strong instructions for establishing justice and order in a Muslim society. Religious tolerance is ensured in the Qur'an, and acceptance of Islam has been declared a voluntary act, not by compulsion. Note the verses on the screen. A Muslim is strictly directed to fulfill his trusts and promises. The Quran directs the Muslims to abstain from adultery, rumor mongering, calling others by nicknames, negative assumptions, slandering and backbiting, hypocrisy, false blaming, and false claiming. Imagine the society without these abuses. How beautiful it will be. The Quran declared gender equality between men and women more than 1400 years ago, when in most of the cultures, status of women was not much more than a household item. Repeat the verses referred on the screen. So, dear friends, all the 5 pillars of Islam train the Muslims, groom the Muslims for promoting socio-religious unity and sharing miseries and pleasures of the community together to address the emerging challenges. The mosque and Kaaba are wonderful institutions to achieve this end. Now listen, my dear friends. The mosque is to unite Muslims, not to divide. One who uses it to divide can be a Muslim? It's a great question, very important question. One who uses this mosque to divide Muslims, can he be a Muslim? Think on it. I leave it to you. The Quran has made obligatory for the Muslims to stand united in all circumstances and build collective socio-political and economic systems based on mutual consultation and justice to safeguard every aspect of human life against extremism and establish correct balance and equity in all spheres of collective life, so that all elements of society could receive their rights equitably and fulfill their obligations and duties responsibly and happily. Note the Quranic reference. Thus, it urges the people to adopt democratic values and inclusive socio-economic and political institutions for well-being of the society. What are these inclusive institutions? These are institutions where every member of the society has equal right of opportunity of participation. So, dear friends, pursuit for intellectual growth has been made obligatory as one of the dimensions of the purpose of the man's creation. It was in fact the derivative knowledge that celebrated superiority of the rotten clay over the angels' devoted worship and jinns' proud fire substance. For that, the Quran has motivated the man to promote his abilities of observation and intellect to approach the observable aspects of the reality. Cognizant of human psycho-spiritual needs, the Qur'an also reveals the spirit, soul, ego, conscience as the third source of knowledge. Read the Quranic verses referred on the screen. Above all, Allah revealed the Qur'an as His direct communication with the man as a source of great divine wisdom for all the ages of all the times. Thus, by honoring the man with four wonderful sources of knowledge, Allah has empowered the man to set higher pace of intellectual evolution to reach the divine truth and achieve the heights of human personality and worldly progress too. Moreover, understanding of the mysteries of the Qur'an is buckled with intellectual growth of the man. Thus, the humanity can get much more of the truth from the Qur'an today, being at higher intellectual echelons, comparing with the limitations of human intellect 1400 years back, and surely a future man who will come in future with a growing intellect will keep on finding higher and higher secrets of great nature and his own self as well from the eternal ocean of knowledge, the Qur'an, especially when the universe itself is ever growing. So, dear friends, as followers of the last messenger, Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Muslims collectively, individually as well as collectively, have been assigned additional duty for preaching Islam to future generations and upholding the prophetic mission to promote the good against the evil by presenting themselves as model of faith, unity, love, wisdom, determination, and benevolence. The Quran gives great importance to collective response of a society to promote good against the evil, where each of its members is required to contribute his share firmly, fearlessly, and forcefully. Remember, whenever individuals remain silent or negligent of their collective responsibility against the evil, whole communities, whole societies, whole communities were destroyed as detailed in Surah Al-Araf. Must study it. So, dear friends, we conclude our discussion here. These programs are recorded both in Urdu and English. Their videos can be watched on ideafoundation.com.pk website or its YouTube channel and Facebook. Their written versions are also available on the Idea Foundation's website. Please note code number of this program Idea 1B R35P3 or lecture number 147 www.ideafoundation.com.pk. All friends are requested to subscribe the Foundation's YouTube web channel for the benefit of this noble cause. Thank you friends for participation. Allah Hafiz.